Good day, Grade 12 learners. Welcome to today's English First Additional Language lesson. My name is Marina Seeley. This lesson is brought to you by the Gauteng Department of Education in collaboration with Sci-Bono Discovery Centre and is broadcast by Pakama Research and Development. I want to take you back a couple of sessions that we had on paper 3. Remember, in the first session, we looked at the process of creative writing, looking at the topics, selecting the topics that you would like to write about, the planning, the brainstorming, the selection of notes and things that you would like to include in your essay. And then the second one, we looked at editing and proofreading, but we actually looked at the way paragraphs are written and organized, how content is organized. Today, we are going to go a little further and we are going to focus on editing and proofreading. Now, just let's look at the writing process again. Just a quick recap to refresh your memories. Let's just refresh our memories again. First of all, when we get the question paper, we read the topics, we choose the best one that we want to write about or you would like to write about. You brainstorm the topic. Remember, that's when you write down all the weird and wonderful ideas that pop up in your mind. And then you plan the content, and that's when you organize all those ideas, fresh ones, new ones, ones that you've been using for quite some time. You all put all of them together to create your essay. Then you put together your paragraphs, and then you write your essay. Very easy peasy. Now we come to the proofreading and editing section. Now, what does editing actually mean? You will most probably not be able to rewrite your essay. Remember, during class time, you had the opportunity to write a first draft and then a final presentation. But when we get to the exam, exam stress and all of those niggly little bits, you would find that you would not have enough time to write a first draft and a final. We also find that when we mark at the end of the year, that the first draft and the final are exactly the same. So what is the purpose of that anyway? So in your exam, you'll most probably have a planning, a good one, an extensive one, and then a final product. Identify problems or errors that will make it difficult to understand what you've written. If you've ever had the opportunity to read a friend of yours' essay, you would find that sometimes you can't really understand what your friend was trying to say. And then you would ask him or her, so what do you mean by that? I don't understand that. And very often it is because of a number of reasons. There are a couple of things that we need to look at when we edit. You need to correct those errors that you identify neatly. Remember, it's not a machine that's marking your essay. It is a human being who has been working for hours and hours on end. In the 10 or 11 or 12 days that we get to mark all the papers for Gauteng, we find that on day 4, day 5, we are just tired. And we can't really look for proper writing in the middle of scratching and unneat handwriting. So you need to correct those errors very clearly. What should you do? Strike out the error and write the correction above the words you have struck through. And just remember, that does not mean that you go to town with your pen and scratch and scratch and scratch. One line will be sufficient. The only thing that you have to remember, that whatever errors you change, you need to do that in pen, in ink, and not in pencil. Let's take a look at the essay rubric. Now, you've been writing essays for quite some time, more specifically grade 10, 11, and grade 12. And I'm sure that you have come across this rubric. This is the method that we use to mark your essay. So we don't mark errors and then plus and minus and multiply and divide, and then we get to an answer. This is very clear. Let's take a look at this assessment rubric. It carries a total of 50 marks, and then there are a number of things that we look at. First of all, we look at content and planning, and that would be whatever the thoughts and ideas, the storyline, the facts. In other words, that is the meat of the essay. The second part we look at is language, style, and editing. We don't award 1 out of 5 if you do badly in spelling. It is a global mark. But once we've read it, we have a very good idea of the level of writing, and we will get to that just now. Then the structure carries 5 marks. And in the structure, we look at the features of the text, the paragraph development, and the sentence construction. So that is more global. Now, in this session, we are going to look at both of those aspects. I'm not going to cover the content and planning, but the only thing that I would say generally is for a good average mark, you need to start pitching your writing at a moderate. In other words, 16 to 18 out of 30, 9, 10 out of 15 for the language and editing, and then at least a 3 out of 5 for the structure. Let's take a closer look. Our focus today would be on the language, style, and editing. Now, if you look at the left-hand side, let's quickly go through that. Tone, register, style, vocabulary appropriate to purpose, effect and context, word choice, language use and conventions, punctuation, grammar, and spelling. Where have you heard those words? I'm sure you have. You've heard them in the language class. Please remember that the different sections in language study cannot be separated. They are integral to one another. So the language structures and the vocabulary and the spelling and the grammar that you learn in the language class, you need to apply them in your writing, in your essay writing, in your transactional writing, and yes, even in your literature writing. So let's take a look at the moderate. I said 8 to 9 out of 15. Tone, register, style, and vocabulary appropriate to purpose. What does that mean? When you write, obviously you have a target audience. When you are writing a story, you want to entertain. When you write a factual essay, you want to share thoughts. When you are writing an argumentative essay, you want to show your point of view and try and convince the reader of what you think about a specific topic. Audience and context, appropriate use of language to convey meaning. I will refer to that a little later. We are so used to watching American television that we tend to lose sight of the fact that we are studying standard English. And then you can't understand why the teacher underlines words in your essay that to you seems quite appropriate. And that is what we are referring to here, whether it is in context, whether it is appropriate. Tone is appropriate. Now, we looked at tone and atmosphere, and we have also spoken about the fact that the choice of words would determine the tone or the atmosphere in your piece of writing. And then a reference to rhetorical devices used to enhance content. In other words, have you used specific idioms or ideas or thoughts that would actually enrich your writing? If you move to structure, that is the features of the text, relevant details are developed. In other words, in your introductory paragraph, you mention a couple of things, and then in paragraph 1, you talk about one idea, you extend it in the second or the third paragraph, your second idea, and the fourth and the fifth paragraph, and however many paragraphs you write, you actually develop your thought. And then when you get to the conclusion, you bring them all together. Remember what I told you? You have to basically write circular. So you start off somewhere, and at the end, you need to get back to that original point. And then there's a word, sentences, paragraphs, well constructed. Even though we won't kill you and give you a 0 if you haven't written specific or delineated paragraphs. It's always a good idea to share one thought in a paragraph and actually extend on the thought. And that gives us as readers a clear idea of what you want to convey in your essay. And then in this specific level, you will find that the essay still makes sense. So even though it's not brilliant, there are errors, there are language errors, there are concord errors, the story has really not developed 100%. So yeah, but you know what? I can still read your essay and I can still understand what you are trying to say. And that will give you a 3. What we are moving towards would obviously be a 14 to 15 out of 15. Right. If you go to right to the top, and those are the brilliant essays, and that does not mean that it's totally faultless. Just remember that. The tone and the register, style and vocabulary, highly appropriate to purpose, audience, and context. The language is confident, exceptionally impressive, compelling and rhetorically effective in tone, virtually error-free in grammar and spelling, very skillfully crafted. Now, I'm sure every one of us would like to land there, get a 14 or a 15 out of 15. Let me let you in on a little secret. It is possible. So do not think, I'll never get to that. Chances are, if you do your best and you plan thoroughly, you will get there. Let's take a look at the structure. Excellent development of topic, exceptional details, sentences, paragraphs, exceptionally well constructed. Lots of exceptional writing going on there. But this is what you should aim for. They always say if you want to reach for the moon, you will most probably fall on the stars, or reach for the stars and you'll fall on a cloud. You would actually challenge yourself to do the best possible writing that you can do. And everybody can write. I think I have convinced you of that previously. A quick way to proofread and edit would be using the following method, and we call the cops. No, there's no police involved, but it is the language cops. The C in cops is for capitalization. After you've written your essay and you have read through it, you check whether the first letter of the first word of each sentence is capitalized, whether proper nouns such as the names of people and places, titles, months and days of the week, holidays, organizations, nationalities, or historical events, whether all of those things have been capitalized. And then you can give yourself a tick on your checklist. The O is for overall appearance. Is my text well organized? Is my handwriting spaced correctly, and is it legible? Remember, you are writing so that someone else will read it. If it's difficult to read, it's difficult to award good marks. Is my paper neat without rips or smudges? I really hope so. By grade 12, you should not be doing that. Have I used paragraphs? Have I used complete sentences? Does my text make sense? That is extremely important. Remember, you are not writing to get marks only. You are writing to be heard. And to be heard and understood, obviously, you need to make sense. If I'm unsure of something, have I asked for help? When you are in your year, in other words, you are still practicing and preparing, and even when you are doing an SBA task, the chances of you asking for help is better. Of course, at the end of the year, you are not allowed to ask for assistance. But by then, you should be practiced in such a way that you wouldn't need that. The P is for punctuation. Is the punctuation correct? Did I put a period? This is an American resource. We talk about full stops and not periods. Did I put a full stop, a question mark, or an exclamation mark at the end of each sentence? Have I used commas correctly? Have I used quotation marks? When do we use quotation marks? Oh yes, when you want to indicate direct speech. Have I used apostrophes to show either possession or omission, or letters or numbers such as can't? And then last but not least, spelling. Did I spell everything correctly? If I don't know the correct spelling, did I use a spell check, a dictionary, or ask for help? I'm sorry. You can't do that at the end of the year, but yet again, practice makes perfect. And if you write, then there are ways of finding out whether your spelling is correct. Did I use the correct spelling at homonyms such as to and to, there, and there, it's and its, been and been, close and close, dear and dear? Grade 12s, these are just a few of the possible words that you can misuse or use wrongly. But we will get to that in more detail a little later. Let's take a look at register, style, and tone. I refer to the language lessons or your language notes when we think about register, style, and tone. And it's actually quite easy. Register refers to the fact that it's formal or informal. Just be very careful, because any kind of writing you do in an exam or academically would be regarded as formal writing. And for that reason, you will not use slang, you will not use profanities, you will not use, to some extent, colloquialisms. Style, on the other hand, refers to the type of writing you do. And that could refer to colloquial or academic. Obviously, when you are writing a factual essay or an argumentative essay, you will not use informal language or colloquialisms, because your language is academic and formal. Tone refers to the emotion that you attach to the words you choose or to what you say. You know, when you read an article in a newspaper, sometimes you laugh. So the purpose of that passage is to entertain you. Sometimes your writing is supposed to inform. Sometimes, like an argumentative essay or even a discursive essay to a large extent, you want to convince someone of a specific point of view. And that can be determined by the tone that you use. Remember, as I said, almost always formal register. And having said that, it is ideal that you don't use contractions. What do I mean by that? Won't, can't, don't, isn't, doesn't, and then the bane of my existence, ain't. Right, so rather than writing won't, you will write will not, can't, cannot, it's, it is, ain't, are not, or is not. Do not use language that you would use in short cell phone messages, such as WhatsApp or Snapchat. Yes, I know you have many more platforms, social platforms that you can choose from. Please forgive me for just focusing on these two. And what do I mean by that? That LOL, and I won't even say I've forgotten. I just miss out on all those interpretations, but try and not use them. Do not use slang. Slang refers to language like gonna, wanna, ain't, bro, and that is the American influence that actually comes across. We are not allowed to use slang because it is not formal language. In other words, formal register. Never, ever do we use profanities. Now, profanities refer to swear words, and they are definitely not appropriate for formal writing, any writing or speaking, as a matter of fact. Let's take a look at sentences. You will remember when we started off with paper 3, I referred to sentence length. The shorter the sentence, the more stress you put on those specific words. If you are writing a narrative essay and you want to create tension, obviously your sentences will be short, like bullets shot into the air, quite short. And it's there to create tension. We don't have beautiful music or threatening music or weird instruments to create that tension as we will have in movies. So the writer needs to use specific sentences or words to create that tension for the reader to want to read on or to react to what we are writing. We need to vary sentence length. If you write an essay and it consists only of short sentences, imagine how boring that would be. We lose interest so very quickly. So vary them. A long sentence loses a lot of impact. I think I've mentioned before that I've marked essays where a paragraph consists of one sentence only. By the second line, you have lost me. In other words, the purpose of your writing goes astray and I lose interest. I have to reread the sentences because I don't understand what you are trying to say. And remember, writing is communication. And I need to understand what you are trying to say. Too many short sentences, on the other hand, become tedious. It might look as though you can't really write or you are grade 1. You must act grade 12. You have learned all the skills to use various sentence lengths. So go for it. Let's read the sentences. The Space Shuttle Columbia disintegrated on its journey back to Earth on Saturday, 1 February 2003. The crew of 7 were killed. The crew of the Space Shuttle consisted of 6 American astronauts and 1 Israeli astronaut. They were returning from a 16-day mission into space. It was a spectacle. It shocked the American nation. The space shuttle was flying over Texas. It was re-entering the Earth's atmosphere. The time was about 9 o'clock in the morning. People heard a loud roar. Clouds hung over the sky afterwards, and debris spread over 100 kilometers. It is very clear this describes the space shuttle that actually shattered when it entered the Earth's atmosphere in 2003. It's factual. It gives a lot of information, and I am 100% sure that the information is correct. So have we achieved our objective of informing? Yes, we did. But a lot of atmosphere and tone has gone because we used straightforward sentences. Vocabulary is okay-ish. And I also find that some of the information is a little back to front. So we need to read it carefully and decide, how can we adjust the content to make it more effective? Just by the look of it, I already see in the second and the third sentences that there's repetition going on. If we go to the second paragraph, it becomes tedious because it's short, but I don't get a feel of how the people reacted. And I'm not saying that we have to shout and scream to the rooftops now, but by changing things slightly, choosing a different word, using a connector word, we might be able to actually bring what happened on that day to the reader and to get a good experience of what actually occurred. You can combine some of the sentences using linking words such as and, also, in addition to, as well as, and the word but, to create more interesting sentences. Please remember that you cannot compare yourself to me or to a teacher or even to your friends. You are you, and you would combine and change and edit that paragraph the way you see fit. And yours might not be wrong, mine might not be right, and the other way around. But this is my take on it. The space shuttle Columbia disintegrated on its journey back to Earth on Saturday, 1st of February 2003, killing the crew of 7. Do you see how I've actually combined a number of ideas? I introduced the paragraph by referring to the space shuttle specifically. So now the reader knows exactly that this is what this paragraph is all about. The crew of the space shuttle, more information, which was returning from a 16-day mission into space, consisted of 6 American astronauts and one Israeli astronaut. So we've given extra information on the crew, not 2 separate sentences, but we have combined them to add more interest. It was a spectacle that shocked the American nation. The space shuttle was flying over Texas as it was re-entering the Earth's atmosphere. The time was about 9 in the morning when people heard the loud roar. Afterwards, clouds hung over the sky and debris was spread over 100 kilometers. Same information. I didn't change a word, but what I did was I changed sentence structure, and that is a bit of editing. By adding linking words and combining sentences, the content makes more sense and it creates more interest. This also helps to prevent repetition. That is a very big problem when we write. We get so kind of written out that we repeat ourselves repeatedly, like I'm doing now. The next thing that we are looking at is choice of words. Now, we looked at the choice of words in the first session as well as the second session, and we said that words create pictures in the reader's mind. In the same way that an artist uses paint or chalk or coloring pencils or whatever medium they use to create pictures, in the same way, a writer uses words to create pictures in the reader's mind. Choose your words wisely for the most effect. Sometimes one word would carry meaning of 5 words or a whole sentence, or sometimes even a paragraph. It is not always what we say, but rather how we say it that matters. Be mindful of the following. Oh, impressive words. Those words that you think, if I use a smart word like this, I would impress the marker and then I would get a high mark. It's not always true, let me tell you. The second thing is words often confused. Remember when we did call the cops, we referred to homonyms, words that sound the same, but the spelling and the meaning are totally different. Then the next thing is overused words. The word and is a very good connector, but it becomes really boring and you lose interest if you use it too often. And then last but not least, spelling. If I can't understand the word that you've written, it might mean that your spelling is a little atrocious. Try and get it as close to the correct spelling as possible. Impressive words. Impressive words should be appropriate. If you want to use a word that would kind of make people widen their eyes and go, wow, that was a brilliant word, then you should know what they mean. And you also need to use them in context. Otherwise, their meaning is lost. And then the whole meaning of the whole essay is lost, or that sentence is lost. Know what they mean and then use them in the right context. Very often these words make it difficult to understand what you want to say. It obscures meaning. That's a kind of an impressive word, obscure. Obscure means it is hidden, unclear. Try not to use that. I very often refer to using impressive words as wearing the right kind of jewelry with the right outfit. If you go to your jewelry box and you put on all the jewelry you have in there, would you look pretty? Nah, you would rather be like a Christmas tree. And we don't want that. We want simple and elegant, understated class. And that is what should happen. If you use 1 or 2 choice impressive words, that is another thing. It draws attention. It convinces the reader that you actually have a profound vocabulary. And then obviously they would go, this is a good essay. But the opposite is also true. So be mindful of that. Keep it simple. Let's take a look at a couple of words often confused. And I know it is not so much that you don't understand. It is more to do with the spelling. You write as you pronounce, and sometimes that pronunciation would lead you to a wrong kind of word, and that would actually also obscure meaning. The first one would be there and there. And I want to add the there that was in the previous slide or 2 slides ago. Now, THERE, the very first one, indicates direction or position. I want to go there, okay, direction. There are 5 children in the class. It indicates position. Right. Where are they? There are 5 of them. Then the house is there, direction. On the other hand, there, THEIR, is a pronoun. This is their house. I want to congratulate them on their success. In other words, pronoun. Then our friends two, and two. I always think about an owl that hoots. The first one is a preposition. I go to school. I'm happy to help you. Those are all 2-O, the 1-O, two. Right. Then the one with a two, right. And a good way to remember that one would be there are too many O's there, which means when something is too much. Right. You can also use it when you want to refer to as well. Okay, let me use that in a sentence. Are you coming to? Right, that would be the to, T-O-O. And then obviously the last one, that's a number, T-W-O. And then whether and whether, the W-H-E-T-H-E-R one can be replaced with if. And we often use that in indirect speech or reported speech. And then the second one refers to the weather outside, whether it's cold or windy or sunny or rainy or whatever. That is the W-E-A-T-H-E-R. Then no and now, and I included this one specifically because technically it's not a homonym or a homophone. It is pronounced differently, but sometimes they do get confused. Now, the one with a silent K, no, right, refers to being familiar with something or someone. I know that answer, or I know that boy. Right, K-N-O-W. And remember, we never pronounce the K, so it's no. Right, the second one is now. Right, and that indicates time. What are you doing now? Ooh, I am teaching a virtual streaming lesson now. At the moment, I'm teaching a lesson. At the moment, you are watching and learning and hopefully writing information down. So that would refer to time. Remember, there are loads of other examples that you can use. Ask your teacher or go to resource books and find more of those that you can use or that you will become aware of to try and use the correct ones. Then overused words. I refer to the word and. Very often it is used as a connector between ideas. Remember, we used that in the very first activity that we did. It makes sentences too long and impact the meaning. In other words, the meaning is lost if it is used too often. And that is when you write the whole paragraph in one sentence and you just connect all the ideas with and. It very often happens if you tell a story or you are excited, then you would say, and then we went there, and then we did that. Girls often do that, don't they? The boys I know are very quiet and reserved. They wouldn't use that. No, I'm not being sexist. It's just an example. When you are excited and you want to share information, then you would often use the word and. In writing, it becomes long-winded, and that is when meaning is lost. When I was a teacher, the word nice was a word that did not exist. And if you used it, you were severely punished. Not by means of anything horrible. I would usually say, bring us something nice to eat for everyone in the class. The word nice doesn't really carry any meaning to me. Find a word that is more descriptive in the context that it is used. I've included a couple of examples. Fabulous experience. It was a fabulous experience, as opposed to it was a nice experience. What does nice actually say? If you are someone, so how do I look? and he or she says, "You look nice." What does that mean? No, you look breathtaking. Or you can refer to a breathtaking view or scrumptious food. How was the food? It was nice. It doesn't say anything to me. If you say scrumptious, you can almost smell and taste the food. So I challenge you to find some words that you can use in context. Words happy, sad, good, bad. These are such boring words. And there are so many other lovely words out there that you can use instead of that. In your preparation phase for your paper 3, use a dictionary. Find words that would be more descriptive and put them in your knapsack. In other words, add them to your list of vocabulary that you can impress the marker with, or the reader for that matter. Spelling, short and sweet. Make sure that the spelling of words is correct. As I said before, we do not count the spelling errors and then give you a mark based on that. But sometimes if you spell a word wrongly, it obscures meaning yet again. So try as far as possible to keep the spelling correct. If you are unsure, break it up into syllables. A word like extraordinary, for example. Extra or de ne re. Remember when you did that in grade 1? That was the purpose. You had to break it up into syllables so that you can actually write down what you hear. And then while I'm saying that, pronunciation is extremely important. I'm sharing my changed one. I want you to look at yours and see how you can improve it. And congratulations, because you have now formally done some editing and proofreading. I woke up Saturday morning after a peaceful night of sleep to the smell of strong coffee on my bedside table. I could hear the sound of my sister's favorite cartoon, Mr. Bean, coming from the family room. I could tell she was up early. The snores reverberating from my uncle's room told me that he was still asleep. He's definitely not a morning person. I shuffled into the kitchen, called by the tempting smells of toast and bacon. "Good morning, my boy," Mom said. "Breakfast is ready." "Hey, Mom," I slurred, stifling a yawn, empty coffee cup trailing from my hand. I gazed at my mom's kind face, illuminated by the slither of sun creeping through the curtains, and plopped down on my regular seat at the wooden kitchen table. I grinned. She prepared an English breakfast and even remembered my favorite apple juice. She had already made my day. I'm going to break it up into little pieces. I'm going to move through it a little faster. I woke up Saturday morning after a peaceful night of sleep to the smell of strong coffee on my bedside table. I started the paragraph with a verb, emphasizing my sensory perception. In other words, I jump right into what does the speaker hear, smell, taste the moment he wakes up, without changing any meaning, and that is what we call editing. I got rid of the misrelated participles, all the ing words without am, is, are, was, were. In other words, things like going to school on a Saturday is fun. Walking down the street, all of those ing words. Strictly speaking, if you want to use an ing word, then it has to have an am, is, are. In other words, a helping verb to make it make sense. I included more descriptive words such as peaceful, reverberating to create more vivid pictures. I included more commas and combined some of the sentences to avoid repetition. I shuffled into the kitchen, called by the tempting smells of toast and bacon. Shuffled instead of walked tells the reader that the speaker is still half asleep. Now, when you're an adult, shuffling is a general term to describe how a teenager walks. That's when you drag your feet, shlof, shlof. It sounds like shuffling. Okay, so that is a very good descriptive word to show that that boy is still half asleep. The word tempting indicates that the smell of breakfast enticed him, it invited him, it called him to get up and go to the kitchen. He's still tired. It's most probably Saturday, so he would not want to get up, but the smells, oh my word, just invites him down to see what his mother is cooking up. The specifics of the contents of the breakfast creates interest. In the previous one, he spoke about an English breakfast. Now, that's all very good and well, but what does it entail? Now, I know an English breakfast is not only toast and bacon. It's actually quite a spread. But in this case, toast and bacon is like the epitome, the highlight of breakfast, and the smells invite you to come in, especially that bacon. It just makes your brain sizzle. Right, the next one. Good morning, my boy, Mom said. Breakfast is ready. I want you to see how punctuation was used, the inverted commas, and then if the speaker in the direct speech still has something else to say, you don't add a full stop. Outside of the second inverted comma, you write a comma. Mom said, comma, and then you put in your inverted commas again. Hey, Mom, I slurred, stifling a yawn, empty coffee cup trailing from my hand. Can you see that picture? Can you see this boy shuffling down the passage, yawning, and then slurring, hey, Mom? He's really not awake yet. By isolating the direct speech on their own lines, I place emphasis on the relationship between the mother and the son. Is the mother angry? No, she's not. Is the young boy irritated, frustrated? Definitely not. It tells you that they have a good relationship. The words slurred and stifling create interest. If you stifle a yawn, that's when you go, ooh, you actually don't want to yawn. That's stifling a yawn. It can be used in a different context as well, but in this case, it kind of works here, I thought. Slurred is when you can't really pronounce the words perfectly as they're supposed to be pronounced, and that also shows that he's a bit tired. The empty coffee cup implies that the speaker already drank the coffee. You don't have to say, and then the boy drank his coffee, or then I drank my coffee. By indicating that it's empty, it actually implies that he's already had the coffee. The word trailing emphasizes how he carries the empty coffee cup and continues the idea that he's still in the process of waking up completely. Trailing is like, you're not carrying it carefully. It's just kind of trailing. It's hooked to your fingers. In the last bit, I gazed at my mom's kind face, illuminated by the slither of sun creeping through the curtains, and plopped down on my regular seat at the wooden kitchen table. I grinned. She prepared an English breakfast and even remembered my favorite apple juice. She had already made my day. The word gaze shares the speaker's love for his mother and emphasizes the mother's kindness. When you gaze at someone, it's like, it's not just looking. It's looking with love. And by choosing the word gaze, I wanted to carry that interpretation. Including the effect of the sun on her face creates a positive picture of the mother, because the sun shines on good people. It actually shines on everyone, but it creates the idea. enhancing her lightness and her kindness. She has made an English breakfast for her son because she knows he loves it. The word grinned shows progression from sleepiness to being more wakeful. So he's not bright-eyed and bushy-tailed just yet. He kind of, So from slurring and yawning, he goes to grinning. So there's more movement there, progression. The clever use of punctuation increases the effectiveness. So let us recap what we have learned. Are you finished writing? Call the cops. Let's just quickly remind ourselves: capitalization, overall appearance, punctuation, spelling. Those are the important things when you are proofreading and editing your essay. When you finish everything, make sure that you struck a line through your planning and your first draft if you had time to write one. Make sure that you keep to the suggested number of words. It's always easier to keep within that number of words because the more you write, the more mistakes you tend to make. So try not to do that. Indicate the number of words neatly at the end of the essay. Please don't count all the words and then write the totals in the margin. That makes us plain crazy. Remember, language teachers are language teachers for a reason. Write the final number of words at the end of your essay. Make sure that you wrote the corrections if you struck out any errors in your essay. Sometimes you're so quick to want to finish that you actually draw a line through an error, think, I'll get back to that, but then you don't. And then there's a blatant problem. All right, so make sure that you wrote the corrections after you've struck out an error. Draw a line at the end of your essay. This will help the marker know that it is complete, and that would be the end of section A. Then, very important, remember to start section B on a new page. It's a new marker, so you will write it on a new page. Very often, section C will also be marked by a different marker. So remember to start section C on a new page. Even if there are 2 lines left of the previous one, it doesn't matter. If you want to save paper, plant a tree. But in exams, use the paper that you have available. And try not to skip pages. Markers do check, but make sure that you have written properly. In conclusion, remember, paper 1 is your naughty person. Paper 3 is your marks maker. It counts 100, and it's your opinion, your ideas, your thoughts. So there's no limited memo that it has to be marked against. Remember, I referred to the rubric. It's a global idea, global thought. So be prepared. Do your best. And that is all we can ask. Some of us are good creative writers, but we are not good at language. It's not a train smash, but try and get both of them on par. Sleep well before you write paper 3. Actually, every paper in the exam, but this one specifically, because it requires you to be creative, to think outside the box. And when your brain is tired, you can't even think inside the box, let alone outside. Your brain needs to be fully awake and alert, and I would actually add, have a good breakfast before you go. No sweet stuff, that will make you tired. A good high-protein breakfast will do the trick. And then at the end of the day, paper 3 is for you to be creative. So do that. Challenge yourself. Think outside the box. Allow yourself to go further than your mind has ever taken you. And I promise you, the results will reflect. Enjoy the process. This is your last, well, for the prelim, the almost last one, the second last one. But for the final exam, that is your final paper for English. You will never, most probably, write a paper 3 again. Enjoy it. Enjoy the whole process and challenge yourself. And I would like to wish every one of you good luck. Because as a teacher, I want to see 100% pass. I want to see happy faces. I want to see success. I want you to come to my class or my school and show me what you've done. And that doesn't mean you need to be a medical doctor. You must just be successful at what you do. Good luck. Thank you for watching this lesson. Goodbye.